Judge's Corner is brought to you by CoolStuffInc.com and GatheringMagic.com. Support our show by visiting both websites. Now it's time for Judge's Corner with David Green.
Hey everyone, thanks for watching Judge's Corner. In today's episode, I wanted to talk about a very powerful and popular card in both Modern and Legacy, Tarmogoyf. Tarmogoyf has some very interesting characteristics that define what it can do. Let's go ahead and take a look at those characteristic defining abilities next. Tarmogoyf's power, for its meager cost, is what makes it so desirable in many decks. The special thing about its power and toughness is that it's ever-changing. Its power and toughness are defined by the characteristics set by its ability, known as a characteristic defining ability, found on a lot of other cards. What that basically means is its power and toughness change based on specific variables defined by the card. It's not limited to just power and toughness, but before we explain the technical side of what that means, let's slow down a bit and give some examples of how it works. So our buddy, Tarmogoyf, says its power is equal to the number of card types among cards in all graveyards, and its toughness is equal to that number plus 1. That means its power and toughness is just 0, 1 for the most part, unless some things are rotting away in the grave, say a land and a sorcery. If we add 2 more sorceries to the grave, then not much else is going to change. Just 2 types, just a 2/3. But then, if an instant goes to the grave, it becomes a 3/4. Take away a land with a Deathrite Shaman, and it goes right back down to a 2/3. Also, things with multiple types, like Shardless Agent, would contribute to 2 different things, growing the Tarmogoyf 2 times bigger. Now that we have some of the basics down, let's get a little bit more complex. How about we back up to that 2/3 we talked about earlier with just a land and a sorcery in the grave? Could we kill it then with, say, a lightning bolt? Well, when we play an instant or a sorcery, the ability does what it does when it goes to resolve. In this case, applying 3 damage to the Goyf. Then, while it's sitting there for just a moment as a 2/3 with 3 damage on it, the spell will finish resolving and be put into the grave. This is where an important lesson comes into play. Lightning bolts don't kill creatures, state-based actions do. The second that spell hits the grave, the Goyf's continuously applying effect bumped it up plus 1 more, and make it into a 3/4. And when state-based actions check immediately after the spell resolved, it'll see that the Goyf is a 3/4 with 3 damage on it, and it'll survive. It might be a little overcooked, but it's still kicking. Another neat thing about characteristic defining abilities is that they don't just apply to things in play. They're applying and being factored in every zone. So if your grave was packed with a bit too many things, for example, then you wouldn't be able to tutor for a Tarmogoyf with an Imperial Recruiter. Now, one last thing with Tarmogoyf before we go. While there are 13 card types, that doesn't mean you'll ever see a Tarmogoyf much higher than an 8/9 all on its own. The 8 card types that can make it to the grave are Artifact, Creature, Enchantment, Instant, Land, Planeswalker, Sorcery, and Tribal. There's also Planes, Schemes, Phenomenons, Vanguards, and Heroes, but those cards can actually end up in the graveyard, so they can't really grow the Tarmogoyf. And with that, concludes our episode. If you have any questions, make sure to send us an email at judgescorner@gatheringmagic.com. And until next time, remember that what doesn't grow, dies. And what dies, grows the Tarmogoyf.